Hello and welcome to this video on the use and benefits of acidic soil for your bonsai. Many soil mixes used in bonsai are made to be free draining, rich in organic matter, and retaining just enough moisture to keep your plants alive and growing. What is not mentioned is the pH. Despite this, an acidic soil can be of use to you if you are growing certain species. Before we explain how to adjust pH, we should look at what species you want to grow in an acidic soil and what effect it has. Azaleas and rhododendrons are perhaps the best example. They particularly like a lower pH in the soil. This helps when it comes to a floral display. The more acidic your soil is, the more pronounced the colour of the flower becomes. Another example that also benefits from acidic soil is holly. This is perhaps better known for being a Christmas wreath inclusion. The acidic soil makes the berry and flower colours that much more pronounced again, and does support its growth somewhat. Finally, the most extreme example is your hydrangea. By creating a soil pH between 5.2 and 5.5, you can turn your hydrangea blue. That is the flower. If your soil is more basic, it turns it pink. The first option for making your soil more acidic is sulfur. Sulfur is handy for a few different reasons. One is that it takes some time to lower the soil pH. This means that you can work towards a particular level, or try to frame it in such a way that you eventually get a certain batch of soil right where you want it to be. It's also long-lasting, which is rather convenient if you're looking at having something in a pot for a number of years. If you're looking at this as a bonsai soil inclusion, that might be your best bet. The only challenge you'll face is figuring out how much to add to get to the right pH for your trees. Next is iron sulfate, and iron sulfate is similar to sulfur, but the inclusion of iron helps it to take effect a little more quickly. The fact that you can get faster results, weeks rather than up to a year, is convenient. This does, however, come with drawbacks. Notably, it can create a soil that's too rich in iron and other products, which will then lead to damage to your bonsai. This is a good short-term booster to the effect of sulfur and other material you're using to lower the pH. The third option we have is aluminium sulfate. It's noteworthy that many products are sulfates because of the way they're more available and effectively transported. Aluminium sulfate is convenient and is one that's used in a number of different demonstrations of acidification via adjuncts. The addition of the aluminium sulfate pushes it down and is often used by those who are growing blueberries. It's yet another quick-acting and convenient option for local administration. Most gardeners would dig it in around their individual plants and allow it to take effect, whereas something like sulfur is normally used across an entire garden. The next option is ammonium sulfate, and ammonium sulfates are the generally accepted alternative to aluminium sulfates. Aluminium sulfates are somewhat controversial. The reasons for this do vary, and some of them are more substantiated than others. Ammonium sulfates, though, do fundamentally function exactly the same way. It just uses ammonium rather than aluminium. With these options, you need to be aware of some of the problems in acidifying your soil mix. With the options we've mentioned, many of them are fast-acting, and so you can easily overshoot your intended target by administering too much too frequently. One of the concerns is with, say, aluminium, and aluminium products often come with other trace metals like manganese. These metals can cause problems, particularly when it comes to the roots. The metals lower the pH in the soil, making it acidified, and this acidification, especially if it gets below 5.5, can create the problems we're talking about. These problems, though, can also be exacerbated if you're using something like a clay-rich soil mix. That's because clay often has the same sort of metals present. In fact, it's a natural inclusion in these natural products. It's one reason why, if you're looking at this in a larger garden scale, you should be aware of what the pH of your soil is before using them. Aluminium is supposed to cause harm by affecting the roots, and this is called root pruning. The amount of aluminium that is in the soil exceeds what is normally available and what the plant can deal with. This then interferes with the ability of the roots to absorb the necessary water and nutrients. This is also further complicated by the fact that the aluminium is lowering pH, which interferes with the plant's natural ability to absorb. We've mentioned in past videos how the isoelectric point, or point at which pH interferes with proteins, is something that can do this. If the pH gets too low, that is below 5.5, the tree's growth will be stunted and its health will be affected adversely. One of the more obvious signs of this that is often misconstrued is thought to be phosphorus depletion or inadequate phosphorus. If you add more and you're not seeing any benefit, it may be because the pH is too low. You can counteract overacidification of your soil by adding more organic material, or by mixing your soil with organics like compost. This is a surprisingly simple fix that addresses one of the pressing needs of your bonsai, which is organic material to grow. Alternatively, you can add a liquid alkali solution. This, though, is very much becoming a difficult thing to balance at that point. You're better off adding a bulk solution, like organic material. That will then allow you to bring it back up to a much higher level, if not back to neutral. Doing that then allows you to slowly work your way back down to the right acidification. If you start pushing it from extremely acidic to extremely basic, the trees that lack acidic soil will be harmed. You'll not be quite sure where you're going to reach once you've added your alkali solution, and it becomes much more of a guessing game. That's why we strongly suggest the use of organic material, rather than trying to fix it by shunting a whole lot of alkali material in there and hoping it gets back to where you want it to be, but not overshooting. For these reasons, acidification of your soil can work extremely well if you want to improve the display. It also needs to be monitored with a little care. You do not need to push your soil right the way to the extreme pH of 5 or less. Just pushing it towards the direction of an acidic solution, rather than being neutral, is often more than enough. This will improve the bonsai tree's growth and floral or fruit display. Simply having a slightly acidic soil is enough. You don't need to have full-on acidification. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it interesting, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Please post any comments, questions, or suggestions that you have below.